Hi guys, welcome back to the Shannon Show. Hello if you're new. So today's video is going to be a spoiler review of the Ozark Season 3, which just dropped on Netflix. And what a season it was. I've got a lot to talk about, so depending on what time you're watching this, I suggest maybe getting a meal, maybe getting yourself comfortable, because I've got a lot to say. I didn't do a review of season 2 on my channel, but for those of you wondering, I really enjoyed season 2 as I did season 1, and I was excited to see what was gonna go down for season 3. I never doubted that it was going to be a good season. I feel like this is probably one of the best Netflix originals, one of the best written Netflix originals, one of the best acted. So I knew I was going to be in for a feast. We should do a little recap before we dive into the main plot stories of season 3. So recap, I guess key points were that Ruth's dad killed the FBI agent and then got killed after being set up by Wendy, and we assume that Ruth is oblivious. They managed to secure the casino deal and everything's good, and they decide to stay at the Ozarks because obviously they were plotting to run away, but Wendy was like, nah, we're staying. And then Rachel's snitching ass dies of an overdose after having some of Darlene's botched heroin. Darlene kills Jacob, and Wyatt finds out that Ruth killed his dad and his uncle. And I guess another big development is that some Emmy awards were actually won. Jason Bateman won an Emmy. Julia Garner won an Emmy. Definitely well deserved. So let's get into the plot. So I guess the series starts off, the casino's up and running, but Marty is, being very cautious. He doesn't really want to move money yet because he knows that the FBI are on his ass. And the main kind of narrative, I guess kind of foreshadowing what happens at the end, is that Marty insists that he knows that there is a probability that there is going to be somebody who is out to get him and his business, and he needs time to figure out who it was gonna be. Now, in terms of who I thought it was going to be at that point, because I caught that, I was like, okay, this is going to be the narrative. I think in the beginning, I kind of thought it might have been one of, the workers, like Sam, the young guy with the inheritance. I thought maybe he could buckle. I didn't think Helen initially, because obviously at the beginning of the episode, we see what I assume is her defending Marty. And then midsection, I kind of thought maybe it was going to be Ben. In the final episode, we kind of have a good idea of who it's going to be. And before you know it, Marty is pressured to start moving money pronto by Navarro. Needs money, and he needs money fast because he's caught up in a cartel war. We kind of see a few snippets of the cartel war. So we see a few graphic headless bodies. We see this kind of scene near the beginning of, I guess, some cartel hitman goes to a shop, violently kills the person, and then goes to the back, ties the workers up, puts a bomb on them, and causes an explosion in where I guess they're keeping all of their money, and the money flies everywhere. And then obviously people are thinking, oh my gosh, it's like raining money, so people are going to pick up that money, and within the money they have planted another bomb which goes off. So it's quite grisly. And after seeing that whole scene, I was just kind of thinking, well, first off, I was thinking, how would I want to die if I was caught up in that cartel life? Because it was like two options. I definitely wouldn't want to go how the first guy went, because that sounded like a semi-slow-ish death, obviously getting your throat slit and stuff. Obviously you bleed out. But the other two people, obviously, I guess when they were getting tied up, they probably just thought it was a stick up, he was going to steal the money, and that's that. But then when he puts the bomb, the bomb, I think, and the thing is, he held them at knife point as well. I think I would have rather just been shot clean. I feel like with the bomb explosion, if it goes off well. I'm not sure. I think if it has enough atoms in it, you'll die instantly. But sometimes it doesn't work like that. So I just feel like I think the anxiety would just be too much for me as I'm waiting for the bomb to go off. So I think I just prefer a clean shot in the head, one and done. I think if I was ever in that situation. But yeah, what death would you prefer? Let me know. And then the whole money situation. I think if I ever heard a bomb and then money flying around, I'm just walking away now, because I feel like I would have been one of those people trying to pick up the money and getting blown apart by the second bomb, definitely. So I think now if I ever see a situation where there's a bomb and suddenly there's money, I'm just minding my business. I'm not even minding my business. I'm running and minding my business as well. But yeah, I think I would have got caught up. If I had not watched this episode, if I was in that scenario, I think I would have got caught up and blown up trying to pick up some dollars, girl. But yeah, that is just so cruel. Very cruel. But in terms of those cartel scenes, obviously they were quite graphic, and I feel like throughout the season, some deaths were graphic, some deaths weren't. And I think maybe they did that to add elements of shock, because obviously, switch it up a bit so we're not really expecting the same thing. But I'm not really sure if the cartel violence was necessary. I think us saying, okay, Navarro was in some cartel violence, so now he needs the money move, would have been sufficient enough. I think maybe that was even just a waste of production time and money, to be honest. I'm not really sure if those graphic scenes were necessary. But let me know what you think. Wendy, she's very business savvy, and she sees the crisis with the cartels as a perfect way to shoot in a business proposition. And her proposition is to create a legit business for Navarro to put his legit money into, and expand and buy a new casino and hotel. Now, Marty is very resistant to this idea. Even now, finishing the season, I'm not really sure why. I think maybe it was his whole control thing. You know how Marty wants to be in control. He wants to be the head of the house. He doesn't like the power struggle between Wendy and him, and we see that a lot in this season with the whole power struggle. But Wendy goes behind his back with Helen, and to make sure that this deal goes through, Helen decides to move to the Ozarks. But Marty is like so petty. I don't really know how Wendy deals with Marty. I guess maybe like because they're in this shit now, they have to just go through it together. But Marty, yeah. So Marty is just basically doing anything and everything to stop this deal happening. And the first thing he does is he undermines Wendy by subtly convincing the husband of the two owners not to sell up. Helen and Wendy then offer more money. So then Marty's like, hell no. He's even taken the time now to bug Wendy's phone so he can hear all the conversations. He then blows up the competitor's casino. And then obviously Wendy, she's not backing up. She is going to win this fight. She needs this casino. And one of the things I have to stand about Wendy is that she gets shit done. So just when you thought she had run out of options, I just thought maybe she was just going to threaten them, get Helen to put the squeeze on them with her henchmen. But they do this thing where you can scan the machines lots. So I had to note some things down, No, I had to once the self-isolation machine is open, I got to do my research on some of these casinos. But they do a little scam, and basically means that everybody in the casino wins money. And obviously, if they do that continuously, they're going to drain them. They're not going to be able to keep up, and then they're going to go bankrupt, and then they're going to have to sell it. And the wife is being persistently resistant because there's a little clash there. I think there's a power clash. Obviously there's a lot of animosity there with the Byrdes anyway, because people just think that the family's up their own arse, and technically they are. But Wendy does carry herself like she is better than everyone, and you know what, I don't blame her. She's definitely in her bag, always in her bag, backup plan C, plan D. So she talks to the husband again, and And again, somebody's spouse just ends up accidentally dead, and they get a deal. But yeah, that whole situation with, obviously when his wife accidentally fell, I'm not gonna lie, she looked a bit funny rolling down the hill. I think it was obviously like a doll. I think you could tell that it was a doll. It was a good doll, but it looked very funny rolling down that hill. I was definitely living for the double act between Wendy and Helen, the condescending tones that they were doing. They were taking the piss out of this couple. I'm not surprised that this couple was being so resistant, because Wendy and Helen were taking the absolute piss. But yet we stand women supporting women at this stage of the series anyway. Casino goes ahead, and the casino triggers the FBI to now have powers to basically supervise Marty's businesses. And he was like blaming Wendy, like, oh, now look what you've done. But Wendy was like, oh, no, because he was the one who decided to blow up another casino. Now the squeeze is put even tighter on Marty, because he's trying to move money, but obviously he can't move it as much as he wants to. Now he has to be very strict with his moving, because the FBI are breathing down his neck. Evans is back. He's happy to be back. He's still bitter over his boo, who was cheating on him anyway, dying. He offers Marty a deal. I guess, you know, legally he's supposed to give him a deal. We knew when he offered him a deal, he wasn't going to take it from him. I knew any deal that was offered by this Evans guy, Marty was just never going to take. But there's also another agent assigned onto the case, Agent Miller, and Marty and her actually gain quite a close relationship, and she offers him a decent deal. Basically, the deal is that he would plead guilty to 1 count of wire fraud and serve 18 months and then work for the FBI for life. I'm guessing that's going to be salaried. What do you guys think about that deal? And if you were Marty, would you have taken that deal? Because 18 months, I'm not sure if he'd have to serve the whole thing if he gets out early. If he was to serve half of it on good behavior, that's my 9 months in prison. All of the other charges go away. And from what Marty has done, this could be like a multi-decade sentence if he was not to get a deal or anything. But it's very vague, the deal. We don't know if he gets to keep the money, if he will still be able to, or whether his wife will still be able to run his former businesses for him. So I'm not really sure if what is being offered now, if you don't get any of those benefits, if it's beneficial to take that deal, because, you know, right now you are pretty much untouchable because you know you are the best at what you do. So I'm not sure. I think it would have been tempted to take if you just like, because with Marty, you never really know with Marty. We go through the same thing every season. He says he wants out, but then he gets back in, but then he decides he's like the smartest person ever and he's going to make more money than he did last year. We just go through this cycle with him every season. But when she offered the deal, I didn't think he was going to take it. Did you think he was going to say yes to it eventually or not? And if you were Marty, would you take this deal? So obviously we see a development. I guess Marty is just feeling stressed from the FBI on him. He can't move money. The bosses are on him. And, you know, the deal is looking more and more attractive. And even though the deal is looking more attractive to Marty, I still didn't buy him actually being serious about it. Obviously, he agrees to it. And when he agrees, it triggers suddenly Navarro's men come out of the woodworks. They kidnap him and fly him to Mexico and put him in a hole. And for like a couple days, he's just basically bullied by Navarro. And he keeps systematically asking him, what does he want? What does he want? And obviously, initially, Marty is quite vague. And then they have like a proper like angry prison-induced heart-to-heart. Back on the sidelines, Wendy's freaking out. She's shook. She's kind of just like, oh, you know, them ones where you're just like, oh, this is the one where I'm going to get the body bag this time. Wendy is shook. She's crying. I'm never really sure with Wendy. I'm still not really sure if she has emotions. I'm not sure. But Wendy is clearly shook. I think she definitely thought this could be Marty's time. I think we all knew Marty's not gonna die. I think if Marty was to ever die, it'd be on the final series. But even Helen is shook. She's asking the hit guy, like, you know, if it's my time, if it was ever my time, if my name was ever pulled out of the blacklist hat, the hit list hat even, would you give me a heads up? And he's like, yeah, I'd give you a heads up. So even Helen is shook. And that just got me thinking, if I was up in that business, would I want to be given a heads up that I was on the hit list? I was going to be next on the hit list. Because I guess with that, you can either just accept it, get it over and done with, just, you know, say, you know, take care of my kids, you know, don't help my family, or you can try and run. I think I would definitely try and run, but it's just it's just like, but at the same time, I'm not sure if I'd want to know. I'm not sure, because I feel like I would try and run, but I know with these cartels, you never really get very far. You're just running away from, you're just temporarily preventing the inevitable. So in that case where it is looking like you would be running for a day, but then they'll eventually catch you and kill you, I think I probably wouldn't want to know. So, you know, when I do know, I'll be dead. So, yeah, I think that would be best. But let me know if you would want to know if a hit was put on you or not. So, obviously, with the whole breakthrough with Navarro and Marty, I guess Marty helps them out with a little red flag situation that turns out to be the FBI agent throwing him a bone, because the FBI agent has been sniffing around, basically saying, "Oh, just tell us where Marty is so we can help him. And if you tell us that it is the cartel that have kidnapped him, we'll be able to put FBI soldiers into Mexico." But obviously they're not going to give that. They're not going to give that up. But she throws him that lifeline to, I guess, get into Navarro's good books. And I guess it does help. And I guess what he negotiates with Navarro is he wants to launder money on his terms. And he said he wanted a thank you. But of course, Navarro didn't give that thank you, because I feel like Navarro has that complex. He's just like, I'm not going to accept a thank you from a gringo. So, yeah, he has that complex. So he lets him go. And it seems like at that point, they have this sort of weird, volatile, mutual respect for each other. So Marty is back from business. He is acting a little bit strange. He's, you know, letting things go, and he's just kind of diving himself into work. He's a bit of a robot. I feel like Marty always goes through this post-torture traumatic robot stage where he's just a robot, and then him and Wendy get into a bust up, and then they have a little heart-to-heart / argument with each other where they let all of their feelings know. So Navarro gets the birds involved in his cartel war. He asks Wendy to open up a horse farm for him under the guise of, oh, he's interested in horses. I didn't buy it when he said he was interested in horses. I was just like, horses? Sounds a bit dodgy if you ask me, but, you know, each to their own. I'm not going to prejudge. And then it turns out it was just a ploy to get back at one of his rivals, because the farm had his rival's horse on it. So he castrated the horse and then sent the horse's genitals to his cartel rival. And obviously Wendy's completely blindsided. The owner, she seems like such a lovely woman, and she is just completely devastated. And even though that actress had such a small part, I have to commend her for that. Shout out to whoever the original owner of the horse farm was. It was really believable. I really felt for her, because you could just, you know, you see the way that she conveyed that when she was realizing that who she had signed her life to, who she had signed her farm away to. Because imagine, you've worked so hard to build your business. This innocent looking woman comes, says she wants to invest in your company, she believes in you, you can do whatever you want. Some hoodlums come to your farm and chop off one of your horse's balls, like, and then you're standing there looking at them, and they're just like, oh, I'm sorry, huh? She's good. I guess, you know, she couldn't do anything because the gunmen and the henchmen were there, but who? If there was no hunch, I think I would have swung, because the disrespect, Wendy really did that owner dirty. Like, justice for the horse farm owner. I felt so bad for her. But yeah, in terms of making your 5 minutes on screen work, that extra or small role person really made that role stretch. Whoever she is, I'm wishing her the best on her acting journey, because she deserves all the roles. So obviously Wendy feels bad about the whole situation, because obviously the owner is just like distraught, and she's calling him up like, why are you involving me in your petty shit? Like, you're making me look bad. Obviously now people are thinking like I am some hoodlum, some gangster, you know. That's not the brand that I'm trying to associate myself with. And Navarro's on the phone like, bitch, don't speak to me like that. I own you. You and your husband are my bitch. If I'm in a war, then you're a part of it too. So just very erratic. And it's just like, what can Wendy really do? It's just like, I think like, again, we see it time and time and again. It always them and Navarro always come to blows, like where they try and see each other as equal, and then Navarro's just like, nah, like, I own you. So that whole situation leads to the cartel hitting back, and the KC mob are now involved in the Navarro operation, and their van gets hit, the delivery drop van. Ruth was meant to go meet them. Ben and Jonah had decided to follow Ruth with a camera, because there had been incidents where the KC gang had tried to mess with her, because her and the KC gang's head, Frank Jr., came to blows because he was just a dickhead and he didn't like Ruth's authority, and Ruth did throw him over the boat into the sea, into the lake. She had brought the drone as a backup, you know, in case they tried anything funny, she'd see it, obviously. So they managed to warn her so she doesn't get attacked, but obviously the cartel wipe out the 3 drivers and blow up the van of money. £20 million of money blown up. And one of the men turned out to be an informant. So obviously the FBI are involved, but of course there's motive here. And the FBI, especially the Evans guy, is there. Miller is there. I think Miller now is, you know, not really impressed with Marty, because Marty has been like running a bit of game on Miller, like not trying to agree to the deal now, but giving her intel on other people. So she's really going in on him, and Evans is obviously just going in on him. Evan is ruthless, and he'll just do anything and anything that he can to get the result. I'm not sure who's worse. I do think Agent Petty is worse actually than Agent Evans. Obviously they're brought in for questioning, they're clutching at straws and they're pointing fingers. So Marty's brought in for questioning. They basically tell Marty, is he involved in this? They reckon that he ordered the hit. He found out that there was an informant, so therefore he blew up this van and he shot the person. I guess that is a good theory, but I'm not sure if Marty would have blown up the money though. I think maybe he might have just stolen half of it or something to make it look like... Actually, no, that wouldn't have made sense to steal half of the money. You'd steal all of it. But yeah, for Ruth, they basically insinuated, well, Ruth set them up because there was animosity between her and Frank Jr. And obviously the men work for Frank Jr. and his dad. And that's what they tell Frank Jr. as well. That's the seed they plant. But they also plant a seed as to say, maybe you should start looking into your death, because it seems like, you know the people responsible. And, you know, she was saying she doesn't know what they're talking about. But at that point, I think she already knew that it was... She knew that it was probably Wendy who was involved. At least Wendy was involved in her dad's death. But I think she had known the reasons why. And, you know, for the simple reason that her dad really just weren't shit, she had just let it go. But I think she definitely knew who it was, I believe anyway. Does anyone else think that she knew who it was? Or was that moment in the interrogation room the light bulb for her? The FBI, they don't arrest anybody, but they plant the seed. Frank Jr. now assumes that Ruth set him up as revenge, and he beats her up and really badly. There's internal bleeding, broken ribs, and she's sent to hospital. Obviously, when he was beating her, it did look really bad, but again, I was like, they're not going to kill Ruth, especially after she won an Emmy for them. Obviously, I guess filming probably started after the Emmy was won. But, you know, Ruth is a staple part of the cast, so I knew they weren't going to kill her off. When Ruth finally comes to, she asked Marty and Wendy to kill Frank Jr. And obviously, they say no. Marty has now cut off ties with the KC mob as retaliation. I'm not sure if he did do that entirely for Ruth. I feel like that was in his best interest. He didn't really like dealing with them. He didn't really need them. So I definitely think Ruth was just the reason that he needed for him to be able to cut off ties with permission, because they had agreed prior that the son was untouchable and also Ruth was untouchable, and he had been paying him extra money on top of that. So to be paying you extra money on top of that and then you go and beat up the person I said was untouchable is cheeky. But obviously Ruth says, you know, that's not enough. You know, if it was Charlotte, I'm sure you would send somebody to kill the son. Does she have a point now? I have to say no, because I think it wouldn't be a smart decision to go after the son of a big criminal organization, a decent sized criminal organization. In terms of manpower, the Martys don't really have henchmen. They have power, but they don't have henchmen power. Like, I guess they could call on Navarro if they really needed to, but again, that would mean them owing Navarro something. And in terms of the comparison, I mean, the son of a mob boss and the no good dad who nobody really care about if he dies except for his family, I'm not sure if you can compare it, to be honest. So I can understand why they didn't kill him, but I think maybe they should have threatened him at least. I think maybe they should have threatened him, definitely. But yeah, I can definitely understand why Ruth definitely felt some type of way, because I do feel like the Birds do take Ruth for granted and do kind of feel like, well, she's loyal. And I do think it was a bit cheeky that they didn't do more for her. One thing that we see, obviously Helen moves to the Ozarks temporarily, is we do see more of Helen's home life, and I guess they wanted to make it interesting, maybe let us see a different side to Helen. Obviously we only really know her as the uptight, cruel criminal, and you know, I guess we're seeing more sides to her. Obviously we see her getting waterboarded, and it's almost like she's completely normal after that. I don't know if there's a little bit of karma there. Obviously she waterboarded our girl Ruth, like, but I don't know, even when I was seeing her waterboarded, I didn't really feel satisfaction from it, because I feel like she probably had this happen to her many times before. Like, you know, she's just used to it. It's so weird. She's got her own drama going on. Her ex is making things difficult for her custody wise. He says he wants the son for the summer, otherwise he's going to take her to court for it, and he can only have the daughter, which is a bit weird. I would have thought, you know, if you're going to be petty, you'd want both of the kids, not just the son, but okay. And then I guess we get to know her teenage daughter Erin. We don't really know how old she is, but we can either assume that she is, from the maturity level of what we see, is probably like 14, 15. To be honest, I think her character was a bit plain and it's a bit boring, and I think it was an underdeveloped and creative character. I think, like, this in terms of character development and character building, I think on the rare occasion they fell short with Erin and it was very lazy. I feel like they basically just copied the same thing that they did with Charlotte, but with less quality than they did with Charlotte. And, you know, Charlotte season 1, even season 2, she was annoying. But I feel like it's easy to be annoying. But, you know, Charlotte's character was annoying with finesse. There is no finesse here. It's just, this is an annoying character, if you get what I mean. You know, it's the same thing. She's desperate to lose her virginity. She's hanging out with bad boys. It's boring and overplayed. To try to redeem her with the whole subtle Jonah, Erin romance storyline, I guess they were trying to creep that in subtly, but again, it didn't really revive her character. I wasn't really interested in her, to be honest. I feel like, I'm not really sure if we needed to see Helen's home life, to be honest. I would have been satisfied with her just being the bitch and that's it. You know, we hear about her children, but we didn't have to see them. I feel like the quality of the season would have been a bit better, because I guess maybe they needed different devices, but I feel like with the things that they did do, that they did need, I'm guessing just the informant. I'm not sure. I feel maybe they could have gone down a different route, I think, with the informant, because the informant ends up dying anyway. So I don't really think they needed Erin in this season, to be honest. But what did you guys think of Erin and the inclusion of Helen's home life in this series? Did you think it helped us see a different side to her character? It helped develop her character a bit more? Or not? What do you think? I just feel like the best part of Helen's character is when she's in her criminal bag, not in her mum life bag, to be honest. Charlotte and Jonah are basically left to babysit Erin for most of the season. And again, it was just like the plot device was one of the more weaker parts. It was just, and it was just, I'm not really sure why Charlotte stuck around for all of the foolishness. Maybe she was thinking, because she's Helen's daughter, she knows how dangerous Helen is. She's got to keep Erin safe. But I was just thinking, that whole situation where what they got arrested for, I think as soon as it started to get crazy, that's when I'm snitching on Helen's mum, because this is getting ridiculous now, because now you're going to jail for this bitch. No, sorry. And then also, obviously, when this informant guy was trying to get it on with Erin to secure some info, Charlotte was telling Erin to stay away from him. She was telling him to stay away from her. And she was like, oh, stay away from her. I'm going to tell my dad. And my dad works for the cartel. And he's going to get on you. And I was just thinking, all of this, I'm going to call the cartel. I'm going to tell my dad. I'm just thinking, tell the police. Because Erin is clearly 14, 15. And this Tommy or informant guy looks a good 23. So call the police. I'm not sure, why she couldn't just call the police. I guess maybe because he was like a cartel guy, but I was just thinking police. And then we have Wyatt's storyline, and Wyatt, he has had a very interesting season. We knew he was a bit of a weirdo, but I guess this season is even more weird. In the beginning of the series, him and Ruth are estranged, understandably, and he is refusing her money. And I'm not really sure. I struggle with the concept of refusing people's money, and I guess sometimes the element of you don't want them to feel like they have anything over you. So with the machine going on, if I don't film this now, who knows, honey? So just bear with the machine knows. The machine, the machine knows. What was that even saying? Yeah, I guess some people don't like, feeling like they owe somebody, or feeling like somebody has some money over their head. Because, sometimes someone will be like, it'll be 6 months later and they'll be like, well, remember that time I gave you £100? Remember that time I gave you £10? So maybe it was that dynamic. But at that time, it was Ruth that owed him. She killed his dad. So I feel like Ruth definitely owed him at that point. So it's just kind of just like, you need some money, just take it. I'll never get the whole stubborn thing with money and stuff like that. I just feel like, if you're going to be at an advantage and it's not going to be like a strings attached thing, which it wasn't in this case, just take the money. So obviously he's being stubborn. He's squatting in people's houses. He got caught squatting. And he ends up in jail. Ruth tries to bail him out, but he doesn't want Ruth's money, which is, again, just stupid. Come on. Just accept the money. You're actually sitting in a crusty jail cell, but you don't want to accept bail money because of pride. Free bail money that you're not going to have to pay back because of pride. Okay. Anyway, that was annoying. And then all of a sudden, Darlene is just up in the station, and she decides she's going to pay his bail off. And she basically takes him in under her wing. She provides him with food and a job. And they start to have a close relationship. And they get even more closer after Wyatt. Okay, I'm going to have to pause because this washing machine. It sounded like one of the weapons that the cartel use. ruining my vibe. Alright, machine over. So they begin to get closer. Wyatt even helps Darlene beat a custody case after Wendy decides that she's going to try and steal Zeke back. And then all of a sudden they're just smooching on screen. Like, you know what? I saw it coming. When they hugged in the kitchen, yeah, I was like, are they going to do it? Are they going to put this kind of, you know, age gap relationship storyline in there? And then obviously they kissed, and I don't know, I just feel like it's just very creepy. It made me uncomfortable. I don't know whether they're trying to do like a whole groundbreaking thing with a whole, you know, older women being desirable, but obviously White is like want to be like 19, 20 in this, and Darlene is like full on 70-year-old woman. So I'm sorry, that is just strange. Whether it was the other way around, like he was a 70-year-old man and she was a 19-year-old girl, it's just strange. I'm sorry. It's a weird art relationship. Does anyone stand the relationship? Anybody? When the whole sex scene, it was very strange for me personally. Another key character that was kind of introduced to this season, one and done, iconic character this season, was Sue, the marriage counselor. Sue. Greedy ass. It was a fun storyline with her playing, you know, the counselor and then getting paid off by Marty, and then Wendy now trying to pay her off to get her to kind of side with them in their marriage counseling sessions. That was a funny storyline, and again, it kind of shows the lengths that they'd go to. I feel obviously Marty definitely took the piss, because Wendy only did it once. I think it's quite cheeky because she took Wendy's money and she didn't even fulfill the service for her even once. So that was very cheeky there. But I guess now it was kind of compromised, because how can you try and side with the other when both of them have paid you off? So I think she just had to come to the point where it's just like, you know what, it's actually crazy that both of you are paying me off, so I just got to spill the beans. A lot of rich people, or even well-off people, pay off their counsellors to side with them in their counselling sessions. And of course, it's just counterproductive. And I'm not really sure if them both doing it shows that they're perfect for each other, or whether they should just be apart, or just act like an image relationship and do their own separate thing. But it was definitely funny. So obviously, Sue calls them both out in the session for trying to pay her off, and they both just basically get into it. They start arguing, they get things off their chest. They're really going in at each other. I personally love those scenes. I love when Wendy and Marty start arguing. The acting is just so great, and the chemistry that they have on screen is just one of the best couples that I have seen on screen. And you know, the tea, you know, even though you know what has happened, you know, the arguments, I live for them. You're eating your popcorn, you're just like, okay, so you better tell him, Wendy, you better tell her, Marty, you better spill that tea. And a lot of tea was being spilt in the argument. And as this was going on, I was just like, yeah, I'm living for this argument. But then I was like, wait a minute, isn't Sue just there back there chilling in the room? And they're talking about how they killed each other, how they covered stuff up, how they work for a criminal organization. They're spilling all of the illegal and criminal tea. And then obviously at the end of the argument, we just see a little pan of like Sue just sitting there like, what the hell have I just listened to? And obviously after the whole session, Marty goes and speaks to her and says, you know, well, how much do you want to stay quiet? And, you know, at first she was doing that, oh, you know, no, nothing, it's fine, you know, we've got, you know, confidentiality. But then she was like, you know, yeah, you're going to have to pay me a lot of money to keep quiet. And when she said that, I was just like, this could be a problem down the line. Because Marty loves paying people off, and usually when he pays people off, they end up dead. So, so I was just like, I'm gonna keep my eye on Sue. I'm not sure if she's gonna last past this season. Now, at this point, I was just thinking, and also I was kind of thinking, at this point I was also thinking that these celebrity counselors and psychologists must be getting paid a lot of money, because they probably have to sign NDAs as well, because celebrities and stuff and rich people need to vent and stuff, but they still need to keep stuff confidential. So these celebrity counselors must be getting a lot of money to not only provide a service but keep things confidential as well. Could be a career path. She's got her money now. At this point, we don't know how much money she's got, but Sue, 60, 70 years old. Sue, the first thing she's done is she's gone and bought herself a sports car, and she's driving around in this sports car, and she's now gone, she's pulling up at Marty's house and, you know, saying hi. And when she was doing that in the sports car, I was just like, Sue is going to cause some trouble for herself. Now, where I knew it was really the end for Sue was when Helen came and visited her. And I was just thinking, this is a red flag. A red flag when the third party is now coming to visit you, because it is not Marty, it's not Wendy, it is a third party that you haven't heard before, and they're saying that they are you know, Wendy and Marty's lawyer. After you've heard them say that they kill people, they are part of a criminal organisation, and they work for very bad people. So now the person has asked you how much they've given you. That's a red flag. How are they your lawyers and they're asking you how much they've given you? So now you said, okay, they've given you 100 grand. But now you're saying, you know, and then she's saying, oh, so do you want more money now? And she's saying, you know, they're giving me 100 grand, but, you know, I feel like, you know, after everything, all of the things that I know now, I'm thinking I might have sold myself short. So yeah, you know, I think I am going to need a bit more money. And then Helen was like, you know, I'll take care of that for you. So yeah, I'll take care of that. And when Helen said, you know, I'll take care of that, that's when I knew we're going to see her in a body bag. Now, Sue, very ambitious, but very stupid. Asking for more money from a criminal organisation after they've already paid you off is a big no. And, you know, you could write off, maybe she was old, you didn't know, she was naive, maybe she thought that they had a moral code. You know, some gangs, they have, you know, don't kill babies, don't kill old people, you know, policy. Maybe she thought the gang had that policy. But I just think, and then on top of that, obviously, like I said, the red flag, the third party coming to speak to you, them asking you if you want more money. And also, Sue, why are you asking for more money? Because Marty and Wendy have already given you a lot of money. They've been paying you for the sessions, and then on top of that, they've been bribing you, and then they're giving you 100 grand on top of that. If I was paid 100 grand to keep quiet, I think I'd be good with that, because I'm smart enough to know not to ask for any more and just to keep my mouth quiet. But it was very cheeky to ask for more, because I feel like 100 grand is, you know, a lot of money, like a good chunk of money. I think I could understand if it was something like they gave her 5 grand or 10 grand and now she was asking for a little bit more. But a whole 100 grand, Sue, you're greedy. You're greedy. And, you know, greed is not a good look this month either. But yeah, would you have been cool? Like, if you were Sue, you didn't know what was coming for you, would 100 grand be cool for you? Or do you think you would have tried to finesse a bit more? I think I would have been cool with the 100 grand, because I would have made the 100 grand work. I would have invested in something, you know what I mean? But yeah, greed is the root of all deaths in the Ozarks anyway. But yeah, as a character, I loved Sue. She was very cheeky. She tried it. And you know what? I'm glad they didn't have a graphic depiction of her death. I think, you know, the switch to just seeing her body bag was enough for us to know that she was dead. And, you know, I did grow a little bit attached to her character. Even though I knew she had put a mark on herself, I did like me a little bit of Sue. I'm going to miss Sue. R.I.P. Sue. We see the relationship with the FBI agent. We got Agent Evans back. Messy. He sets an informant to catch out Marty. And he is just... I mean, he's just very heartless. I'm not sure if he's grieving Russell, so now he's just heartless, because I felt like before he had a bit more of a moral compass. But obviously when the informant was saying, oh, the girl told him she was a virgin, he was just like, well, don't get her pregnant. Like I should say, like, do what you need to do. And I'm just like, but the girl is underage and this guy is like clearly like an adult. So paedophilia is what these FBI agents are encouraging. Shame on you, Evans. Dirty. And then I guess Miller, she's kind of like the good cop. The one that's tough to break, the one who has integrity. I thought we were going to see her crack this season. I thought they were going to just get dirt on her and she was just going to submit, but she's clean. You know, her daddy was a scammer, so now she's decided that she's going to fight all the scammers in the world because her dad left her family high and dry. You know, he didn't even let they didn't even benefit off the scam, so now she's just going after all the scammers. And I thought that their relationship was quite interesting because they kind of had respect for each other, mutual respect for each other. And at the same time, they both kind of needed each other in this whole relationship. So I think their relationship was probably quite interesting. And one of the newer characters that I enjoyed, obviously she doesn't turn by the end of this season. But I think maybe next season we could see her turn, maybe. Or maybe we could see Marty possibly get a bigger deal. I'm not really sure still what this endgame is going to be. I feel like with these criminal organisations, there's always going to be like an endgame eventually. But what do you guys think will come of this relationship? Do you think Miller will eventually flip? Or do you think Marty will end up taking some sort of deal with her? Let me know what you think. And then another new character, and I think everybody is going to be talking about this new character and everyone is going to be affected by this character's death, is Ben. Ben, oh man, it's so sad. So sad. R.I.P. Ben. But yeah, let's get into it. Let's discuss. So we're introduced to Ben, Wendy's brother. We see a little episode of him going like reacting very violently when he was a sub teacher, and he ends up going to Wendy's because he skipped a town because there was a warrant out for his arrest. At first when I saw him, I just kind of thought bad news. He's either going to end up dead or he's going to end up getting him in trouble or the family in trouble. I kind of just writ him off as bad news. But as we got to know him more, I was just kind of thinking maybe I misjudged him, you know, maybe I thought a bit too soon. Obviously he said he was coming for a couple of days. Obviously that couple of days just turns into, well, actually I've got a warrant out for my arrest, so yeah, I'm not gonna go, but you know, you won't even notice that I'm here. And what I guess is kind of bittersweet about, you know, Ben is that we kind of see him and Wendy kind of reconnect. In the beginning, they grow a bit closer. It seemed like Wendy liked having him around because he was always in her corner. And Wendy was someone he admired and he looked up to. Like, I guess he didn't think that she was this evil, cynical person. And even when he did find out eventually what the family business was about, I think he kind of just viewed her as a money launderer, a white-collar crime person, somebody who is not a hardened criminal. And I guess, you know, obviously we kind of just think maybe he's just someone with anger problems. Turns out he has bipolar. And even though he is violent, it's not like he's just violent to anybody. Usually, I wouldn't say the person deserves it, but it's not like he would just, you know, a baby would stare at him and he'd punch the baby. It was usually just like a dickhead, usually. Maybe a dickhead that didn't deserve to be punched, but, you know, punched anyhow. He also had this thing about morality. He was almost obsessed with morality. He always had to do the right thing, and that was to his detriment and to his unfortunate demise, I think. He also has a budding romance with Ruth, and it seems like, you know, we never really saw Ruth in a kind of romantic way. She was always just the boss, always in her work bag, never really had time for anything else. She was always either looking after her family or going to work. And, you know, with Ruth, I kind of just do see her as the young teenager. You know, she's got such a baby face, so, and Ben looks like a, you know, a rugged, mature man. So, I don't know, I felt a bit strange at the beginning, their little relationship, you know. But, you know, by the end of it, I thought I like their relationship together. They're not my favourite couple. But yeah, his bipolar meds cause erectile dysfunction, and I guess that's a massive insecurity for him with him dating Ruth, because they want to get it on, but nothing's happening. So he decides he's going to stop taking his medication. And after he stops taking his medication, Wendy is instantly worried. She's trying to tell him to take his meds. He's refusing. She's telling Ruth, warning Ruth, he's bipolar. He can, he has he overreacts. He has such a big reaction to a little thing. And, please convince him to take his medication. And I guess Ruth does try, but I guess she takes a pretty lenient approach, because he basically says, he spent most of his life off of his medication. The medication changes him. He's not a threat to everyone. Who is the real me kind of thing. Like right now, it's me. Like I'm not a danger to you right now, am I? I'm not sure whether the series is now advocating for medication or no medication. I think obviously with medication it's a slippery slope, because it's not all one size fits all. Because even when he was in the hospital, you'd think because he was on meds he would feel a lot better, but maybe they had just put him on a particular type of meds that weren't working for him. Because I guess with bipolar meds and stuff like that, depression meds, you actually have to guesstimate kind of. You have to mix and match to see what calibration or what concentration works best for you. But yeah, I'm not really sure what argument the series was going with, because I think he obviously did. I think he did need medication, but I guess maybe it was the type of care that he needed was the issue. Maybe institutions are not the best place, maybe, especially the institution that he was sent to. But then, of course, after Ruth was kidnapped, he decides he wants to pick a bone with Frank, and he doesn't end up getting to Frank. He ends up at a bar. Somebody gets a bit hostile with him. He has an overreaction, and he just takes out all of his frustration on him, and he ends up getting booked. And he calls Helen in as his lawyer, and Helen is definitely not impressed. She's just kind of thinking what is this erratic guy calling me up to say I'm his lawyer? I'm not really sure what was going on in that scene, obviously, when he had to decide whether they were going to send him to jail or to hospital, because in the office, Helen was telling Wendy and Marty that it's either jail or the hospital, or a state hospital. But then when she went to his cell, she said that the charges were dropped against him, and that he's being sent to a private institution. I'm not really sure if that was a lie just to get him to go easily. I'm not really sure, but I think that whole scene was very sad. Obviously, Ben breaks down. He says he doesn't want to go. He's very anti-institution. Wendy is breaking down. She's upset. And it was just sad. It was an emotional scene. It was shot very well, acted brilliantly. And yeah, I really felt for my man Ben, kind of just it's either that or jail, man, better than jail. In the hospital, he is just really downbeat. He feels betrayed by Wendy, because Wendy had always promised that she was never going to commit him to a hospital again. He doesn't want to see Wendy. And he tells Ruth that, if he stays in here, it's going to kill him. This is death for him. She needs to help him, and she needs to get him out of here. And then Ruth was just yeah, I need to get him out of here. And at first, I thought it was going to be a prison break. I thought she was going to bust him out of jail. She's reconnected with Wyatt now. They get talking about the situation. And Wyatt says, he'll talk to Darlene, and Darlene might be able to help. So Darlene manages to get the sheriff to get him released. And the first thing he does when Ben is released is he goes to Helen, where she's at with her daughter, and basically spills all of the illegal tea and tells the daughter who her mother really is. And at this point, Helen had made a point to keep everything from Erin. It was very important to her that Erin didn't know about her illegal business. So obviously he spills all of the tea. He gets quite violent. He like floats the table, and Helen is pissed after that. Like after that, we knew it was a wrap for Ben. There was a hit out for Ben after that. We knew this is not gonna be a type of let's talk it over type of thing. We knew Ben needed to either get the fuck or he was gonna end up dead. The daughter knows now. She's trying to say it's not true, but the daughter knows. She even goes to the other kids and gets confirmation, and the child knows. Now I can definitely understand why Helen is pissed, but I think it was definitely very unrealistic for her to assume that her daughter was never going to find out, when you are keeping your daughter in an environment where you are committing all of these illegal activities, especially. And I think as soon as she found out that there was a FBI aide, there was an informant on her that was trying to infiltrate the organization through her daughter, I think that should have been the light bulb that said, okay, this is not going to be the place for her if I want to keep all of my illegal shit inconspicuous. I need to send her back to Chicago. So I think, again, it was just very unrealistic for Helen to assume that Erin was never going to find out. But I can understand why she would be pissed at Ben. Now, her reasoning is, it's not just Erin. Obviously, I'm mad at that, but it's not just Erin. You know, he's unreliable. He's going to tell somebody else. He's a blabbermouth. We need to neutralise him. And you know what? She has a point there, because Ben definitely has been running his mouth. He did sabotage Wendy's charitable event that was quite important for her, setting up this foundation. Like, she was trying to get it off the ground, and he completely ruined her chances by having an outburst at her event and causing a scene and calling her a liar and trying to expose her. So I just feel like if he was willing to expose Wendy in front of everyone, then I feel like he definitely was a high risk. But I think it's always, you know, sticky when family is involved, especially blood relatives. So obviously the hit is out and they are trying to save Ben. They go to Ruth's house first. Ruth hides him in Darlene's house. Darlene is happy to cooperate. I think she definitely had ulterior motives there. But then Ben, even though I feel bad about how Ben went, Ben was very frustrating, and definitely had a hand in his death, I think. Because they're trying to save him. They're telling him stay at Darlene's house, don't leave the premises. Now he's going out in public and going to Ruth's place of work. When he did that, I was just like, he was just asking to get killed now. He's just asking for it. You know, the casino of all places. So obviously Marty takes over, and then Wendy takes over, and Wendy decides to like drive him out of town. So as they're driving out of town, Ben, I don't know why, but he keeps buying burner phones and trying to call people. He's trying to call Helen, trying to say he's going to make it right. He tries to call somebody else, and Wendy has to keep stopping him from doing things. And I think after he tried to call Helen and she broke the phone, they went inside a convenience store and she watched him buy another phone. And she asked the person, did he just buy a phone? So he's bought another phone now, after she's already smashed that other phone. So at this point, I can see Wendy is over it. Wendy is agitated. She's irritated. She is literally putting her life at risk trying to save somebody who keeps self-sabotaging themselves. And I think at this point, you just kind of think of, I'm thinking, because I was even thinking it too. I was thinking, if she drops Ben off at this Knoxville place that he wants to go, I feel like Ben is the type of person who will be there 2 days max and then come back to the house. Not even come back to the house, go to Helen's house and try and apologize and make things right. I feel like that's what he would do. And she knew it deep down as well. And obviously at the time we didn't see it, but it was just very insidious. We see them go to a restaurant, then Wendy leaves to go outside, and then she just drives off and leaves him there. And then we see the hitman, and we know it's most likely a done deal. She's basically just abandoned him. Then she's driving, she's on the phone to Marty, she's crying, she's saying, you know, I just can't do this anymore. Martin's trying to comfort her. Either way, whether she knew someone was following her or not, she had left him to die. But then when the developments came through, that she called the hitman to say, this is where we're going to be at. So be here if you want to kill my brother. You've got my blessing. So Wendy killed her brother, basically. She might as well have pulled the trigger. Wow. You know what? I kind of get it. I get it. Ben was a liability. He was probably going to end up getting himself killed. And, you know, it's better that she just gave him up rather than put herself and her family at risk for somebody who was going to end up getting themselves killed anyway. But at the same time, this is your brother. This is your blood. You know, you grew up together. Clearly unwell. And you just send him off to the slaughter like this. Like, you fully Judased him. You feel it. And the thing is, after she asked him, would you want to be in 5 years? She'd already made the call. How? That is like heartless. That is witch behavior. Evil. I just feel like Wendy. Who will she not give up? Who will she not give up? It was beautiful, the whole exchange. It was very beautiful, very engaging. I really felt how irritated and agitated she was by Ben, because I was getting irritated and agitated by Ben because but then when he died, I was like, oh, this is sad. But at the same time, Ben, you know, I'm torn because it's sad, but I can get it. But, you know, I don't think I would do my siblings dirty like that if it was me. I feel like I would have at least tried to get them. I would have at least took them to Knoxville, and anything else was out of my hands. But to not even get him to Knoxville, I think that was a bit selfish, because I feel like she would have been able to get away with it. The cartel would have been like, you know what, yeah, you helped your brother get away with him, but when we find him type of thing. But at least you tried to help him, you know. But to send him to his death and to not even have the cheek to apologize or say sorry, just left him out looking for you. It was inhumane. It really was. I'm just glad that I'm not in this business, that my siblings are not in this drug criminal business. Oh, because I don't think I could make decisions like this. But what would you have done? Do you think you would have given your brother up? Or would you have tried to at least get them to Knoxville? What would you have done? I need to know. And do you think that Wendy is a Judas and a cold-hearted bitch? Or do you feel like she just needed to do what needed to be done? Obviously, Wendy is torn up. She's probably feeling guilty. She goes on a bender for like 2 days. She's drinking vodka on the trot. She's having like Pringles for breakfast. And you know what? I struggle to feel sorry for her, because you really did your brother dirty, you know? You know, I can respect it on the level in terms of, you know, the hustle and the grind that you're on. But you did your brother dirty, like now you want to cry. It's just confusing. Wendy eventually comes back home after her little 2-day binge. And Jonah is not happy with the response that the family is having. It kind of feels like they should be going after. Charlotte is surprisingly understanding. She's a bit more mature this season. Obviously, season 1 and 2, she's a bit of a little annoying, whiny person. But, you know, this season it seems like she has matured a lot. She has more of a mutual understanding with her parents. But Jonah is like very torn up is very angry that his parents are not backing their uncle. In terms of his frustration though, I feel like there definitely needed to be a bit more character development with Jonah, especially with their relationship, because you only really saw snippets of it, but it wasn't the same chemistry that we saw with Jonah and Buddy, in my opinion. So when Jonah was getting so defensive about it, I struggled to get into the vibe of believability. It just felt like angry, but I didn't connect to the anger because I didn't feel like there was enough character building in terms of their relationship. Ruth obviously is upset about the whole situation, and she initially takes the Byrd's version of events as fact, but Wyatt is basically saying that, you know, something sounds off And, these are serial dodgy people. So I think you need to go back and ask some questions, because some of the stuff that you're telling me, it's not making sense. So obviously she twigs that she's been taken for a dickhead again, and she goes to their office and confronts them and says, tell me the truth. Wendy admits, what happened, basically, like 99% of what happened, what went down. And Wendy has a trick to try and twist the finger and turn it on Ruth. She's basically saying, if you just let him stay in the hospital, everything would have been cool. He would have got better. And to some degree, I guess she is right. He probably would still be alive if he was in the hospital, if he hadn't killed himself. But at the end of the day, Wendy, you set your brother up for the slaughter, and that is on you. And you only. So obviously, Wendy is getting really defensive right now. Very defensive. She's calling Ruth out her name. She calls her dumb. And Ruth has just had enough of Wendy and Marty. Obviously, I guess her and Marty, have a close relationship. But Marty is just kind of staying quiet. He's not really defending Ruth. He's just, standing at the side trying. He's in that, I'm not involved call now. And Ruth has just had enough. And she basically says that she's quitting. Only Marty wants to jump in now after Ruth says that she's quitting. Typical. Now, what I don't understand is, after Ruth said she was quitting, she went to Helen's and basically said that her problem is not with her, it's with Marty. And Helen was like, oh, would you work for me if the Martys weren't in the picture? And she was like, yeah, I would. You know where to find me if that's ever an option. And I'm confused as to why she wouldn't want to work with the Martys, but she would want to work with Helen, because Helen is the one who issued out the order, specifically. So I just thought that was very strange. I'm still struggling to see how that makes sense. And that's when we kind of see Helen becoming a bit more insidious. Helen kind of moving on in the Martys. Midway through, we kind of see that Helen is trying to, shimmy her way up through the ranks, shimmy her way into less of the lawyer role, but more of the business role. She's trying to get into her business bag. I guess, when she did the takedown with Wendy, she was just like, maybe I have a knack for this. But she knew that Marty and Wendy would never go for that, having her as the third partner. So what did she try and do? She tried to be sneaky and snaky about it. So obviously, with the Navarro cartel temporarily in disarray, she takes advantage of that by basically saying, well, Wendy and Martin aren't really making moves. They're not really making the money that you need. So let me take over the businesses because I can do a better job. And obviously, Helen basically tells Marty and Wendy that she's going to now be involved in the business side of things, but she's not going to touch the casino. But we know that she's lying, because she's went to Wilkes and asked for a gaming license in exchange for a little side deal between them. Now Wendy clocks it straight away. She's just like, that bitch is plotting. Like, she is plotting. Well, Marty, he wants to dismiss Wendy like he always does, and basically says she's crazy and that Helen is not going to make her move against them. And then what do you know? They get the call from their little informant person, from Jimmy, and Jimmy says, well, Helen's got a casino license now. And that's when they know that Helen is plotting against them. Now, Wendy basically has a bright idea that they're going to get back into Navarro's good books, because they tried to get into good books by basically saying that they gave up Ben, but he was just like, what am I meant to do with this? So they figure out a way of how to take out their rival cartel by using a loophole in the US law, which means that because the cartel took out US citizens with the whole KC mob bombing thing, they could prove that it was them, and therefore US soldiers could go deal with them on their land and therefore take them out. So that was their big power play. But I guess Helen maybe knew they were going to try and come back with something. So what she tries to do is she makes a false confession and gives it to the FBI. And then they all get a call from Navarro to go to Mexico and have a meeting. When they had the call to get that meeting, I kind of thought they're not going to kill Wendy, they're not going to kill Marty. I knew it was going to be Helen. I knew at that point, because I was just thinking, Helen, what are you actually doing? Because you're giving a false confession to the FBI. You yourself are giving them the confession, and you yourself are a lawyer. The confession said that they're going to testify against Navarro, and you yourself are the lawyer, so you were attached to that. So obviously Navarro is going to know you were attached to it and know you were probably trying to make a move against him. So I just I'm still confused why she thought that was a good or a smart idea, and I feel like she really dumped herself in it. Obviously, before they go, Jonah goes and pulls up on Helen, and I had a feeling that Jonah was going to pull up on someone. Obviously, we saw him use a gun in the season. That whole incident where they got arrested and had to do community service, that whole incident, obviously he was playing with the gun. So I was just like, it's only a matter of time before Jonah gets out his gun again and starts threatening people. So he threatens Helen, and before she leaves to go to see Navarro, and Helen says, yeah, I put out the hit, but it was your mum who said it was okay. And, it's a standoff or whatever. We knew he was going to shoot her. So, the ones, I kind of get sick of those ones where they're just standing with the gun for ages. And it's just like, okay, we know you realise that your mum's a snake. So, like, can you go confront your mum now? Like, dragging it out unnecessary. So, obviously, Jonah goes home. And there's a very dramatic shot where he shoots through the glass. So I guess him and his parents are probably going to have some issues when they get back from their little holiday in Mexico. So obviously now everybody's getting on the plane. Marty gets a call from Miller. Why did you take this deal with the FBI? I thought, you weren't going to be dealing with Evans. He's like, what the hell are you talking about? I didn't sign no deal with the FBI. And I'm definitely not testifying against Navarro. She was like, well, where are you now? She was like, I'm getting on a plane. She was like, well, is that plane going to Mexico? He's not saying anything. And she's like, if that's going to Mexico, get off that plane now, because it looks like you're going to be sent to the slaughter. Now, at this point, like, Marty is either going to Mexico alive to face the possible consequences, or he can try and do a runner and end up being sent on the plane on a dead body. So at this point, Marty has no options. But again, I knew the target was always going to be Helen at this point. I had no doubt about it. They get off the plane, they get up the taxi, the gun's pulled out. And again, the gun is right next to Helen. And you know what? It does kind of look like maybe it could be, a sick shot where the bullet goes clean out her head and into Marty's head and into Wendy's head. But I knew it was just going to be Helen who was the victim. And they gave us one of the classic gruesome deaths for Helen's demise. We see the head split out. We see the blood splatter on them. It's very jarring. And I was just like, oh, that was quick. I knew it was going to happen, but I didn't think it was going to be that quick. So I can commend them on that. That was a good little shock narrative that they did there. I think I would have preferred to see Helen really break her ice infrastructure. I wanted to see her beg for her life. I wanted to see her say, I've got a family, I've got daughters, all of that. I wanted her to beg, But yeah, do you think Helen's death was satisfying, or did you want a little bit more? Let me know what you think. So obviously, and then I guess lastly finishing the whole final episode of, obviously, Wyatt basically spills the tea to Darlene about Ruth's situation and how she's frustrated with Marty and Wendy for, not backing her up. So she goes to Frank Jr. and shoots off his dick and then tells Ruth what she did. I'm not sure if it's going to be legit or not, or half and half, but Ruth basically agrees. That was Darlene's ulterior motive with getting with Wyatt. I think she always planned to nab Ruth because, she was encouraging Wyatt to speak to her and all of this stuff. And then she's also got the case. I think he basically plays the same characters he does in Power, but I think it's very strange. Obviously, he's a part of the KC mob with a New York accent. It's just, a little bit strange. What did you guys think of Joseph Sikura's performance? And yeah, I think it was quite interesting that Ruth kind of just went along with it. Obviously, we saw she wasn't a fan of Darlene and Wyatt's relationship in the beginning. She was warning him, saying, that she's dangerous, she poisons people, she kills people, but he was defending her, saying, you know, you're no better, you killed my dad. I do think they're definitely on different levels. You know, the dad was a piece of shit, and, you know, Darlene literally snatched her baby from, you know, the person that she killed's womb, you know. So, you know, but I guess, you know, I think Wyatt will be safe with Darlene for now, you know, as long as he behaves. You know, they say they're both in love with each other. Again, I still think it's very strange. I think we've always seen a soft and hard side to Darlene. I think she is here to stay as well. But yeah, that's pretty much the key stuff in the episode. I know it's like, this is going to be a very long video, but I think overall, in terms of the story, it was jam-packed and it was paced very well. Like, this was a show that it was, you know, sometimes with shows there's a little bit of leeway, you can check your Twitter and stuff like that, but literally this show has you so engaged that if you miss something, you have to skip back, you have to pay attention, you have to be engaged with, and it does a good job of keeping you engaged. It does a good job of transitioning you into stories, because after the whole Ben situation, I just kind of thought, well, I guess that's going to be the action done. And then there was the whole other thing, and I was just like, okay, I'm ready for next season. I'm not really sure what season I liked more though, this season or last season. I think I'm leaning more towards last season. I still think that this season was good. I think the storylines were really good, the performances were great, but there were some subtleties I think could have been improved that weren't lacking in the other seasons, namely, you know, the things that I've mentioned. I would have liked to see a lot more development from Jonah. Charlotte was pretty much a background character this season. We saw so much from her last season. I think it's a bit strange that we didn't see as much in this season, I think. One character I was slightly disappointed with was Navarro's character. Obviously, this is the first time we're actually seeing him in person. I feel like he's not really who I imagined. I think he just gave off, he was very one note. He was angry and he was violent, and he felt like Marty and Wendy thought that they were above him. I would have liked to see a bit more of a developed villain from him, considering he has been hyped up as this invisible figure for 3 years. I expected a little bit more. I'm not sure whether it was the casting or the directing or the acting. I think maybe it was a mixture of all three, to be honest. I just feel like his character was a bit neglected. What did you guys think of Navarro? Is he who you imagined? Do you think he did a great job or not? Marty and Wendy, they're always just going to be a very interesting couple to watch. The power dynamics every season. It was nice to see more of development on Wendy this season, because she is such an interesting character. I think the cinematography was great. I think the score was great. For the most part, I do think the writing was good. The pacing was perfect. In terms of next season, okay, my lights have run out of batteries, so we're just gonna have to utilize. In terms of next season, I guess there's always a new handler once one dies. So I think we'll be introduced to a new handler, I assume. I guess we'll see a new relationship with Navarro and Wendy and Marty. And then I guess with Darlene's business as well, that expanding. Is Ruth going to stick with Darlene? Is she going to go back to the birds? Are the birds going to try and reach out to Ruth and poach her back? Is that going to cause conflict? That's probably going to be an interesting aspect of season 4 even. And also Marty's relationship with Miller. Is that going to develop? Is Miller going to turn? Is she gonna offer him a deal? Is he going to take it? I feel like everybody's looking at Marty, but no one's looking at Wendy. Is Wendy going to be compromised? What's going to happen with the relationship with Jonah? Is Jonah going to flip? You know? Are they going to try and claim that they took care of Helen? Because she is dead, you know? So, but yeah, let me know what your predictions for next season would be. But yeah, overall, it was a great season. So I think taking everything into account, I'm going to give it a 3.5 out of 5. Almost a 4, but not quite. Let me know what you thought of this season. Let me know what you thought of this review. Also, let me know what you'd rate this season out of 5. Subscribe if you haven't yet. And if you have, don't forget to press that notification bell so you know when the next review is dropping. Till next time, guys. Bye.